I've decided to take this video, slow it down, get really personal. This topic of why do smart leaders still react like children is one that demands we come internally. Poor impulse control, blaming others, throwing an adult tantrum. It isn't about the people, the circumstances, the situation that's happening in the moment. It's about what's going on within. It's about underlying, unexamined emotional patterns. My client, let's call him Jim. He used his title to justify throwing his weight around. Vocal outbursts demanded more respect. He wanted people to jump when he asked for something. Literally, he wanted to see them jump up when they were in a meeting, when he asked for something or barked a request. He wanted them to get up, run, and go work on it. His lack of impulse control, his lack of ability to understand what was driving that, showed up in 360 feedback with phrases that echoed, Jim demands respect instead of earning it. This is causing a lack of loyalty, a lack of trust, collaboration, inclusivity, happiness. He's crushing my morale. And when he and I dug beneath the surface, the title was an insecurity blanket, or rather a security blanket of an unexamined emotional pattern that Jim had used for decades. He was insecure because he didn't have the MBA that the rest of the CEOs in his network had. He felt this made him an imposter, and in order to gain respect from others, he needed to somehow find authority. His insecurity was his own worth. And that personal recognition of what was really driving him, what was really driving the outbursts, revealed that it wasn't ever about what was going on in front of him. It wasn't about the people or the circumstances going on in front of him. It was what was going on within him. It's not easy to look inward at unexamined patterns. There's a host of shame that comes with claiming ownership and responsibility for what is driving us. And there's a lot of fear that comes with stepping into that space of looking at yourself, of looking at your own behavior and cognitively committing to doing better. You can overcome that in a very practical way. I did it myself as a necessary part of my own development. It's called the stop sign. A visual that flashes in your mind's eye, because we all know what a stop sign looks like. Stop blaming the external for what I'm creating on the internal. I learned that when I was 27. I was blaming the people around me every time I was having a reaction. I would hear myself say things like, I would never have behaved that way if they hadn't done the thing that they did. And blame is so easy to hear when we're in it. So I ask you, what's your blame statement? What's the blame statement that you use, that you hear yourself say most often? When you get defensive, when you withdraw, when you seek to be at the center of attention, when you're regressive or immature or petulant, those are all choices that you make in response to a fear of claiming ownership. And there are a couple of limiting beliefs that will often block your entry into ownership. First, even if you do all the work, you won't be different. So why do all the work? That's a limiting belief. The second limiting belief is it can't just be that simple. And the truth is that it is. Ownership is simple conceptually. It's difficult in execution. The willingness in comes from examining what you gain by moving through your barriers. By being defensive and avoiding responsibility, there's something you gain. And one of the things in claiming responsibility is actually admitting, what is it that I gain by staying in the current pattern I'm in? If you can't identify what you're going to gain, it's going to be hard to make the leap. If you can't identify what you're going to gain by losing or ridding yourself of the outbursts, it's going to be hard to make the leap. So let me tell you what you can gain. freedom. Freedom from the negativity that's generated inside your head, most often about yourself. From all the unpleasant negative emotions that drive, that gnaw in the background, constantly churning. They sit in the back of your thinking. They're the drivers for how you show up time and again in situations. Freedom from self-regret and remorse at the end of the day when you look back at how you showed up and you feel like shit for it. Freedom from any person or situation having control over your emotional experience. And not just your emotional experience, also your intellectual experience. You know, when you blame someone and you say, I never would have done that if they didn't do this, you're at their mercy. You gain freedom from that when you claim responsibility. Make no mistake, you definitely aren't smarter or more effective in your current state. These are the saboteur thoughts that you tell yourself in order to make it okay to stay in reactions that are childish and immature. A lack of responsibility means you will constantly justify and validate why you're showing up that way. And when you sit down and put it on paper and you look at it objectively, all you'll ever really see is that you're in denial. You're in denial, which is a signal of an inability for ownership. I remember how often I was in denial. Jim remembers how often he was in denial. That inability can be seen as a weakness, but not weakness as in you're not strong enough. More so weakness as in a space where you don't feel capable or competent. So you feel vulnerable or weak in it. In all of my videos, there's always this transition from here's what's going on to how do we solve for that? How do you build emotional coping mechanisms, your self-belief, so that you're not just willing to step into a space of ownership, but you're also capable? Because for me, solutions always lie in wisdom, and solutions are always part of a tweak the dial methodology, not a leap the chasm methodology. Leap the chasm is making this choice to do something completely on the opposite end of a skill set or spectrum that you're currently doing. And that leap is so unfamiliar to us and how we're operating right now that it does seem impossible to do. And so it becomes justifiable, or you can validate not doing it because it seems so impossible. Or when you try and fail, you get to say, see, I was right, too hard, impossible. And you don't change, you stay the same. Tweaking the dial approach demands that you take incremental steps towards what you want to be more emotionally mature, to shift your patterns, to stand firmly within yourself. It's a level of accountability. And that needs your wisdom. Like stepping into that space needs for you to be wise. Now, as an executive, you're already smart. You have a lot of IQ. Your ability to think strategically is on point, and you can use those specific skills that you use in business for yourself. You can use these particular skills to think strategically about how you want to move yourself towards greater emotional maturity and ownership. What's an incremental step that you could take starting today that is more ownership? One of the ways you could see progress is starting with impulse control. Stop letting things fly out of your mouth when you feel yourself becoming annoyed. Stop the overreaction when an honest mistake has been made. Stop the temper tantrum when things don't go as planned or plans fail. Stop blaming and being inconsiderate with your words when stakes are high. One of the most effective practices for impulse control is to always arrive in a state of well-being. Let me just say that again. One of the most effective practices for your impulse control, to stop the current pattern and to choose a different one, is to arrive in a higher state of well-being. And in emotional intelligence, your well-being is created by 4 specific skills: optimism, self-regard, self-actualization, and interpersonal relationships. So let's just start with optimism. Optimism is the mindset that you, your qualities, characteristics, experiences, attributes, resources can positively impact the outcome desired. You have to see from the lens of possibility, opportunity, and abundance. And I'm willing to bet you already do that strategically somewhere. This is about doing it for you. Second is self-regard. It's all about the relationship that you have with yourself. Self-respect, self-esteem. How do you build that every day? How do you talk to yourself about yourself? Because how you talk to yourself is exactly how you're going to feel about yourself, is exactly what you will protect in the face of others. And sometimes that protection comes out like Jim with toxic behaviors to other people. The third is self-actualization, how you pursue meaning, fulfillment, and growth. How you design a life that is intentional for your fulfillment, that's meaningful and important to you. So it's robust, it's rich, it's enjoyable. And fourth are your interpersonal relationships. There's nothing like having vulnerable, strong, deeply compassionate, reciprocal, mutually satisfying, and respectful relationships. Having someone that can mirror back to you how we're showing up. The only reason they can do that is because we've been vulnerable with them. Like they see all of us, not just the cactus prickly parts, but they see our strengths, they see our virtues, and they can mirror all of that back for us. They can really challenge us to continually be better. They help us to see ourselves more true. You can lean into each one of these 4 areas right now to make incremental progress toward being someone who owns their emotions, stops blaming them on things external to them, and stops acting with emotional immaturity, temper tantrums, poor impulse control, and inability to manage stress. Basically, stop taking your stuff out on other people. Instead, show up as a leader that's grounded in themselves, calm, confident, composed, because that's the one people will want to follow. And that's the version of you that you will be always most proud of. If you like what you heard and you found it helpful, hit the subscribe button.